Hello everyone, my name is Niall and welcome back to another video. In this one I'm going to talk about a support system around mental health. And this is going to come straight from the heart really. It's all I can do and talk about my own experiences with it because different people will have had different levels of support from people. But this is what I've experienced in North Wales. And I'm not really sure which direction this video is going to go in because I've kind of got a track record at this point of going into random directions with my videos. But who knows where we'll end up? Who knows how long this will end up as well? But yeah, I wanted to talk about it from a perspective of counselling to start with, because counselling is something I've gone through and something I'd like to go through again. I've just finished a set of sessions which went really well and it helped a lot. And the one message that I really want to get across is just how much more effort, I guess, that's not really the word, how much more emphasis we need to put on mental health and its treatment and its care. Because compared to physical health, at the moment, it's kind of, you can't really compare them. Mental health services just need to be better. And I'll go into what I've experienced, and the way I started out was I was kind of thinking about looking online at different ways to get counselling sessions, and I was looking at self-help things and not really finding them that engaging just because I was a bit unsure. Everything, like, that's the thing, especially when I was feeling so isolated and having social anxiety, is that having to do all that by yourself is kind of like, it's still only your own problem. Offloading it on somebody else and having somebody else, like, just having somebody else confirm that you're suffering from a mental health disorder can really help. Yeah, I was looking at self-help things, and I was in university at the time. I was just about to finish. I was like halfway through my third year, and I think it was around Christmas time when I was like, okay, this is something I want to do. I found the counselling services to email to ask for sessions and ask for help, and I did get some in the end, and it ended up being, must have been a month or so later. So I was hoping to get an appointment around early January. I mean, looking back, that was optimistic. It ended up being, I think it must have been February something. By the time we got around to past the assessment stage and what they could actually do to help, they said, well, you're graduating in a couple of months anyway, so there's not really much we can do for you. And I ended up having just one session, that very session, the same session they told me that was my only real proper one with them, and they pointed me to other places. I'd been to the GP about social anxiety as well, and they referred me to the charity called Parable, who I had counselling sessions with in the end. But I decided to go with the university just because I was part of the university, and it made a lot more sense and it was a lot easier for me, I guess. That's kind of what it's there for, mental health services at university. But yeah, I mean, a couple of things. Firstly, it just shows that the fact they couldn't fit me in for an appointment for another month and a bit, I think it was, shows just how busy they were and how just oversaturated the services are. Like, surely somebody in a higher up position must be able to see that this is a really big problem, because the fact that mental health services are completely being used, they're being absolutely stretched, and nobody's doing anything about it. Nobody's stopping and saying, well, we should be pumping more money into that. I mean, they probably are, but they're not doing enough, clearly, because they're still being overstretched. And I get the picture that this is happening everywhere around the country, probably in other countries too. And it's really frustrating because being in that situation and wanting help and not being able to get it, and at the same time feeling that there's other people who are also in the same boat as you, and you know, they might be in a lot more dire situations than you, and they might need really urgent help and they might not be able to get it. I mean, What if you've got somebody who's really insecure about themselves, who's having suicidal thoughts, and they're needing counselling sessions as an outlet, as a way of dealing with those? And what if that person can't get those sessions? I mean, who knows what would happen to them? And it's unfair. And the fact is that you need so much determination to keep going and keep asking for these sessions. You need so much determination, which a lot of people with anxiety might not have if they're feeling really anxious about the whole thing. And then you've got to take into account the fact that you end up second guessing yourself because you're wondering whether you actually need the help that you're saying you need, because you need to keep saying it over and over again. You need to keep convincing multiple people, and you end up thinking, well, actually, if it's taking this long, if I'm needing to do so much to convince other people, maybe I'm not actually suffering as bad as I think. Maybe I don't need help. Maybe I should try and do this alone again. It's such a hard cycle, and it's such a hard situation, and I mean, like I said, I just really feel for people who are stuck there, and people who are in real need of counselling, real need of help, and are unable to get it just because maybe they don't realise just how determined they have to be. I mean, mental health problems are probably higher in students because of the way the world is, really, because of being the new generation coming through, having to deal with a lot more problems around the internet, social media, that people haven't had before. So it's kind of a new territory in a way. And add to that the stresses of schoolwork, the stresses of university. You can kind of see why it's such an issue. I mean, I think mental health issues they still are sharply rising, and it's a really scary thing, and it's just a consequence of the world we live in, I think. There's kind of no way to stop it, it's inevitable, but at the same time we can counter it. Like, yes, people are going to be suffering from these horrible disorders more often, but there's always strategies to cope with it. There's always things you can do to help them, and at the end of the day, with things like anxiety, with things like depression is a really good example. It's curable, people get better from it, and it just makes me so sad to see that there's people out there who are unable to get that because they don't have help from others. And we really need to be reorganising our whole system and saying, right, we need to be able to help these people, because there is a lot of them. Really, there are a lot of them who are suffering, and I think some of it comes from stigma. I think stigma doesn't help in that people might not want to admit it. That's a different side of it. I think some of it just comes from education, plainly just trying to understand what it is, what mental health is, what different disorders are, the most common ones. That can be introduced to schools and universities a lot more than it has been, because it really isn't a big focus, and it should be. And the other side of it is just reorganising services, making more of them, catching up faster, I guess, to the way society is changing, and saying this is what we need more services, we need more counsellors, we need more opportunities for therapy sessions, we need them scattered more around the country so they reach more people. And it's not really something that people are speaking about hugely. I mean, I can see that it's gaining traction, that a lot more people are talking about mental health now, and that kind of comes from social media, really. You see a lot of people opening up about mental health, a lot of public figures, and it is becoming the norm to talk about it, which is great. And there just needs to be more of a push to the support side of it, because it is just a bit ridiculous. There's not really much of another way of putting it. But yeah, I mean, going back to my story, I was looking for sessions for about I started looking basically Christmas, January 2017, 2018, and my first proper counselling session with the charity that I stayed with was I think it was in August. Pretty sure it was August. So that's 8 months. I had some help in between. They had drop-in sessions at university, and obviously I had the assessment with them. The GP didn't help really that much for me. They told me where to go. I didn't know huge much about how to deal with it. I didn't know too much about how to deal with social anxiety sufferers. They said this is where you can go to get help. I think at the end of the day, when you look at it, as much as I had those sessions in between, 8 months between trying to get help and getting help, it's way too long. I mean, I'm lucky that by the time I'd started counselling sessions, I was in a better place and I'd finished university. I'd got through that okay. I'd been able to just objectify that I'd had social anxiety and take steps to manage it and try and take steps to be happier. Identify what I wanted in life and say, make steps towards those things. But I mean, if somebody's, obviously with the topic of suicide, that if somebody was on the verge of suicide, then there's different services for them to go to that are more ideal for them, I guess is the word. Websites like Samaritans and suicide prevention hotlines and things. But if somebody wanted face-to-face discussions with another human being who understands what they're going through, who's trained in that, and who can properly listen to them, and if they had to wait 8 months for that, you don't really want to think, do you? I mean, with my situation, it's worked out well in the end because I've been able to get help and it has helped. Even though there were periods of time where I needed it more than when I actually had it. But it's still always helpful, and I'd still like to go back and keep that level of support up because I feel like I almost need it in a way. And if I wanted to go back, I'd have to wait another 6 months, I think they said, before I can make a referral again. But then, the fact is as well, I didn't mention this, but the only reason I got an assessment with Parable, the charity I went to in the first place, was because of, this is going to be difficult to explain, a project called Go Wales, which is a part of university which helps people find work who have disabilities, and mental health is classed as a disability by them. They were looking at my counselling and saying, well, you've had to wait a while for this. They rang up Parable a few times. From what I'm aware, they practically shouted at Parable, said, look, we've been waiting forever. It was only then I got an assessment with them. So, who knows how long you'd have to wait if you referred yourself and didn't have that outside help, and especially if you're someone who's new to the service, who doesn't know what they're doing. Somebody who's anxious, who doesn't like making phone calls, the only way you can contact them is by making a phone call. Fear of phone calls is a thing. It's a common thing. It's something I've experienced, not to the same extent as a lot of people, but I don't enjoy making phone calls. And the fact that they make you make a phone call to have help with anxiety, some people might not be prepared for that. And then if they've got nobody around them who can help contact them, that's another side of counselling, is that some people want it to not have to put a burden on their friends and family. I mean, if somebody's really anxious about making a phone call, doesn't want to make it, is also really anxious about distressing their family, and doesn't want to explain to them a mental health disorder, then they're really stuck, aren't they? There's no way. But yeah, I mean, I think I've gone on long enough. There's a lot of avenues which can be improved, really, and it upsets me to see. That's all I can really say. At the end of the day, just like, I think it is important to tell people about mental health, and if you had a disorder, it would be really important to tell people around you, because you're not being a burden. I mean, maybe some people would feel that way, and that's a real shame, but that's not the way it should be, and the only way we can change that is by talking, is by telling them, right, the only way to tackle your problem is to say, this is what I think is right. It's the only way we can move forward, but yeah. There needs to be more action. More action from charities, more funding, because it's such an important issue. It's only getting bigger, and people really can't ignore it, because there's people suffering in the world and they need help, and they're not getting it. Alright, thanks a lot for listening. I hope you yourself can try and do a bit to raise awareness of this kind of thing, and I'll definitely keep trying my best to spread my opinion to other people. But yeah, thanks for listening. I'll see you again soon.